So one of the quirks of the job that I have means that I drive all these different cars, and not always in the order that you'd think.
Yeah.
So the first and only Lambo V12 that I've driven was a Murcielago SV.
Yep.
Now, not too long before that, I'd driven the Gallardo Superleggera, exactly like that one. And the first thing I thought about it was like, blimey, even though it's got bucket seats in there, there's no room in this car, no headroom at all, like, and I'm not that tall. So the Murcielago, I was like, brilliant, this will be better because it's a much bigger car. No room in that thing. I don't know how anyone ever got in one of those with a helmet on, but yeah.
I think Aventador is the same. I think because of the layout, like when you take a back bumper off an Aventador, you could live in the space between the back of the diff and the back of the bumper. It's massive, and then it's diff, long V12, and then a gearbox. So I think that just pushes everything forward. Like you feel like you're on the front axle, which is I think why the V12 sort of stuff or the V12 Lambos feel so small.
Yeah.
But I don't see how they're going to progress that product line. I think we touched on it earlier, didn't we?
Yeah.
I see the mid-engine, there's solutions, DL800 or the DCT gear. I don't see how Lamborghini are going to move the V12 platform forward, keeping it mid-engined the way it is. I don't see... There's no DCT gearbox that will work.
Well, Ferrari had this problem, didn't they? 25 years ago. The Zala 550 came about because it replaced, the flagship mid-engined flat 12 cars. And I've actually got a few articles from way back when, and it's amazing. Like I got with my car, someone gave me a copy of Autocar from '96. When they weren't even letting the press drive the cars, they were giving passenger rides with Michael Schumacher and stuff, and it was so funny because they're so negative about the car, so negative because they were like, oh, you sit really high in it, and like, oh no, the old yes, it would have been the 512 would have just the 512M would have just finished. The 512M feels a lot more like a Ferrari than this does. Or we don't like this at all. It's all fuddy-duddy and old man. And then, hey presto, a few years later, everyone was like, actually, the 550 is brilliant, isn't it? There was a test from about that time where they took a few of these cars on an airfield. Yeah. They basically just gunned them for like a mile and a half. I think the F40 did like 182. The 550 did like 179, but the 512 did like 160. Yeah, it was like miles behind. And I think Ferrari made the right thing, trying to just go a completely different route. And then obviously the mid-engine V8s then had room to grow. So I'm actually driving an F8 on Monday.
Are you?
Yeah, I got this press car.
Okay.
Which I'm looking forward to, especially if the weather's like this. Like roof down in a yellow convertible Ferrari. It's not going to be a bad one.
Maybe a visit to REPerformance.
Yeah, it's a long drive from there. What, you're 3.5 hours away?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, the really unfortunate thing is that normally I probably actually could bring it by because I pick it up from Ferrari HQ.
Right, okay.
Which is not far from here.
Yeah.
But they haven't worked on it, so they haven't to deliver it to me. Which is a shame. They're like, oh, can we deliver you the Ferrari? Oh, you must.
SF90 would be an interesting one.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that car. This is also actually... So that car is the interesting one. That's the new benchmark. And that, in terms of Lamborghini, is very relevant because, like you say, I think Lamborghini have a problem as a company and also as part of the VW family. Because since things that happened with VW, it's been incredibly difficult for some of these companies to justify the amounts of money that they spend. I think the Huracan and R8 are fairly safe, A, because they sell reasonably well, B, because they have a very healthy customer racing program that spun off the back of it. So obviously, if you didn't have the road cars, you couldn't have the GT3 cars and the Le Mans, racing cars, and whatever. So that's okay. But I mean, let's face it. What does the Aventador do for the brand? Like, not a lot.
No, I completely, and that I think that's it. How do you advance that platform?
You can't. And also, I mean, so the Aventador, I want to do a video on an Aventador one day from a technical standpoint because I think it's been so long since it's come out. Everyone's forgot. Like, that car is like almost like half of Veyron.
Rubbishly brilliant, or rubbishly brilliant.
Because you got a carbon cell in it, which everyone forgets. Everyone thinks about McLaren. Carbon cell. You're like, well, Lamborghini been doing it for a long time as well. And in fact, there's more carbon in that than the early McLarens had. You got the pushrod suspension. You got a bespoke V12. I mean, it's a similar thing. I was talking to someone about one of actually best cars is difficult to talk about. Underrated or overrated cars. one of my most underrated cars is the new Honda NSX. And people complain about it and say, oh, it's just too expensive. Like, how on earth could Honda charge £180,000 for that? And because it's got the interior of a Honda, like people say with the Garda, which has got the interior of an A3. Well, guess what? Had Lamborghinis made a bespoke interior, the car would have been another 30 grand, you know. Yeah. And the same with the NSX. People look at the interior and they go, it's a bit like a Civic. It's nothing like a Civic at all. But they forget there's an engine in that car that's bespoke to that model and that model alone. Yeah. There's a 9-speed twin clutch box that, unless I'm mistaken, hasn't appeared in anything by any manufacturer anywhere. So you're like, you deal with these things. The cost of developing and building a bespoke engine and gearbox for one model, you start to look at it and you go, how did they only charge 180 grand for that car? And all the hybrid stuff, I mean, ultimately SF90 uses very similar methods. 488. And that's £400,000, whereas the Honda is like 150 grand plus options. So it's like, I that might be one of my next cars because I think it's quite a wicked thing.
Yeah, I think that and the GT40 for me, the last one, or the Ford GT, whatever it's called.
Yeah, the current one.
Yeah, they kind of come in and out without too much murmur. Unless you're a real car geek, they kind of. I don't think they got the nod they deserve. Everyone's so focused now on the perf, or the 488.
Yeah, the Honda. So the Honda, I think, just had the wrong badge on it. Also, weirdly, in America, the more or less European-led Civic Type R, people pay overs for them.
Yeah.
Whereas the American designed and built NSX, nobody wanted it.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted it. I've seen a few over there. They lost money and they lost a huge amount of money here. The Ford GT, I think it just. I mean, that was a racing car. That was a racing car. They've stuck number plates on. I think also, and I know it's silly and people may disagree and they may be right. I think sticking the V6 engine in there was a bad idea.
I think it was a bad idea.
I could be completely wrong. This is pure conjecture and guesswork. I don't talk with Ford Motor Company. I've tried. They don't talk to me. It's a shame. But I think the sole reason they managed to get that signed off, not to go racing, I think they wanted to make the EcoBoost sexy. And I think they said, you can have your race car, you can have your Ford GT, if we put the 3.5 V6 in it, we'll sell... That Ford GT probably doesn't make money.
Yeah.
But the million F-150s that we're going to flog and say to people, it's the same engine as the GT, like when it's actually not, but you know, make them think
it's just got 6 cylinders and it's in a V.
Yeah, it's a relative, but that's in the same way that, you know, this is sort of relative of the RS6 now. You know, like just in case
RS6 has got a Lambo engine in it.
Yeah, sure. Also I actually saw both cars in flesh for the first time at the same time. That was at the Autosport show about 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. My first thought of the Ford GT was, oh my god, it's massive.
Yeah.
And the Honda, I thought, actually looked way better in person, and it's quite compact.
Yeah.
The Honda just doesn't photograph well.
No, I find them, because they're both such a complex shape, I think that, like, I wasn't fussed on the Ford when it turned up, and then I saw it at World Endurance at Silverstone 2 years ago, and I was like, how has this gone under the radar? It's I think one of the prettiest cars I've seen in a long time.
It's very striking.
Yeah, and I kind of like that. I like this, like the 720 look. Yeah. You're never going to look at a 720 and think, oh, that's up there with a 250 GTO.
720's grown on me. The 720 is not a natural look.
Punches you in the face with its looks.
The other problem for me, which the Ford GT would have, ignoring the small fact I don't have anywhere near the money, and also the SF90 would have, they've got no boot space. And I kind of like the idea that if I'm going to buy a car, and this is what the 550 is unsurprisingly much better than the Lambo at, if I buy a car, I like the idea of being able to just do a tour around Europe in it.
Yeah.
And in the 550, that's what it's born to do. It's brilliant at it. I don't think the leather straps in the back of the 550 had so much use in the 20 years before I got the car. I think I knew I bought the right car. The first week I had the 550, I took it to Brands Hatch. I just wanted the photos, honestly. And it was a terrible idea. The car did not like it. I had a camping chair in the back of the car, like tied down with the leather straps, and I just looked at it and I was like,
"That's meant to be that."
And there was a track. It was a track evening that we did, and there was a track day going on, and it was one of these sort of high-end track days. So there was an LFA, I think, actually there. All sorts of loads of McLarens, with loads and loads of McLarens. Every single one of them come out. We're looking at the 550. and I was like, yeah, I bought the right car.
I think we spoke about it earlier, didn't we, about finance, affordability for cars.
Yeah.
You can walk into a dealer now, whether that be Ferrari, and the finance deal you get on a new car, getting into a new unit, means people who can't go and invest in a classic, just go and, I can afford, like a mortgage, I can afford £1,000 a month. I'll be guilty of it because I want a 570 for the business. I'll be guilty of that. But that means that, like, you lose seeing things like your Ferrari. You lose seeing things like, because unless you are particularly wealthy and can invest that cash in that car, we're not seeing them. No. Do you know what I mean? Every majority of cars I see, if it's new, if it's within 3 years, it's sat on a PCP deal. Yeah, owners are alright with that. I'm a business owner. I do this, I do that. I pay for it on PCP, and that's almost become the way of the world. When it was funny when COVID hit, or when lockdown hit, I'm on a big WhatsApp group of R8 owners, and loads of R8s just went up for sale. Yeah. To get out of their PCP deals because they were in brand new cars. But what that resulted in is almost the bottom of the market coming back up.
Mm-hmm. So, a consequence, I think, of exactly what you're saying. People aren't speccing their cars bravely anymore because everyone's buying a car for either they want it the cheapest, so like, yes, give me the cheap colour, give me the cheap interior, give me the options that I absolutely need. So if it's an R8, I see so many R8s out there, what they got is it's red or black or whatever, and it's got B&O. Yeah. That's it. An Audi can actually do basically whatever you want with a car. Yeah, yeah. But nobody does it because they're buying it and they know at the end of that 3 years, that car's gone. They're never going to see it. And especially if it's a PCP deal with a GFE on it, the fact they've made their car nicer makes no end. So you don't see people going, you know what, I'm going to spend 20 grand on, paintwork and leather and stuff like that to make it really unique, which you used to. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons I got the 550 was like, I think, is it 14,000 Gallardos made? Something like that?
The numbers,
I think, at one point it was like more than half of Lamborghinis ever made with Gallardos. Yeah. And the Huracan must be getting close. Now.
Yeah. I think that must be nearly perfs as well.
Ferrari 430s, similar numbers, I think. 430s kind of where Ferrari stopped counting. So even set 355 was like 10 to 11,000 cars made. The 550 was just over 3,000 cars made, if you don't include the Barchetta.
Wow, okay.
457 right-hand drive. I think they're never quite sure whether it's right-hand drive or UK right-hand drive, but it's about 457. So you're like, okay, cool. So of that, how many are red? You're like, probably half. Yeah. 550 actually was one where there's a lot of not red.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, cool. So I'm happy with red, and it's like, the cream and Bordeaux interior I really love, and you're like, okay, so how many of these have got enough miles on them that I can afford them, but haven't been trashed? You're like, yeah, the number of cars we're talking about is like that. The one comment I get from out in the 550, the one comment I get without fail, people say you don't see those anymore, and it's a shame because they're still about.
Yeah, they're just hidden away. Yeah, and I think that's almost the worrying part now. Is supercars have become either a prestige status for Instagram. Yeah, I can afford £1,000 a month, so I want this, or just something I can afford.
I mean, a lot of people, like we said earlier, about like you've as a business person, you have to always think about your doomsday scenario. Like you say, for me, it'll be waking up tomorrow and like my YouTube's been hacked, or like YouTube decides it doesn't want to pay for car content. They're like guns. If you do a channel about guns, YouTube's not paying you. Yeah. So you're like, okay, so let's be honest here, like cars are pretty demonised in some circles. So it's not beyond the realm of thinking that one day they could go, sorry lads, we've gone all green now. If you do car content, you're on your own for money. And the other doomsday scenario really is maybe hopefully a very long time in the future where people just go, these combustion engine cars, they're done. You own it, you can't use it. And actually, I think the top end of the market will probably be fine. Because let's face it, your 250 GTO, which is already treated as a piece of art.
Oh god.
The fact you can't drive it probably won't even affect the value, even the tiniest bit. Like, because you go, the value of it is like, and this is where I found the new DB5, the Goldfinger things. I found those just bizarre because I'm like, well, surely the value of a DB5 is the fact that it's an old 1960s car with 1960s car floors, the history, who's owned it, where's it been, that sort of stuff. Whereas the brand new ones, they're charging like 3 million quid for, and you're like, that's more than a real one.
Yeah, there's no heritage to it.
No, it's a big corgi toy.
Yeah.
Like, it is, and with certain cars, heritage is the value.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You know, like you're saying earlier, like, you know, some people really, really care about making sure their engine and their car is all matching numbers and original. Like, some people don't give two hoots.
Yeah,
and also, there's a hell of a lot of cars. Half the 911s out there, all sorts of stuff, and I'm sure even there's plenty of Lambos account for it, where 20 years ago, there's a problem. Oh, no, let's scrap the engine, it doesn't matter. Whereas nowadays, you'd be like, we're going to do everything we can to keep that engine in that car because it's matching numbers and it's part of the value. Years ago, my local specialist had, at the back of his place, there's always magic stuff in there. I went there once, there was an F40 and an F50 next to each other. The F50 had the backup and had all that. It's petrol head pornography. They had an SE30. And this SE30 was in the back, kind of half covered, with the engine gone.
Yeah.
And I said to him, like, what's the deal? He's like, it basically needs some serious work, but the guy's been told how much it's going to cost, and he's realised the storage fee is cheaper than fixing the car. And it was there for years. And then one year I went there and it was gone. I was like, where'd the SE30 go? He's like, the chap realised how much it was worth now, and he suddenly realised that the bill was actually quite worth paying, and it's gone. And unfortunately, probably gone into a collection never to be seen again. And that's a shame. I like not just using cars, I like sharing cars. We were talking about it a while ago, and to me, YouTube is kind of a way of sharing not just the stuff that I've got, but the stuff that I've been lucky enough to experience, because ultimately, and I was actually thinking about this on the way down today, like, and we spoke about it a bit before about, like influencers and how, we both have a little bit of a distaste for the term, if nothing else. And actually I was thinking, like, you know what, I whinge and whine about influencers all the time because they wind me up probably more than a lot of people. But actually I was like, is it really any different to before? Like, how many people want a 911 because they saw Steve McQueen in Le Mans, or stuff like that? Like, and maybe we should kind of stop worrying too much about like the things we don't like about these things, and because we see stuff, both of us, we're inside, looking in at this world, whereas the majority of people are outside looking in. And actually, maybe it's really important we do have these people like Shmi, like TG, like all these people, and both these people I know, and they're good guys. And the fact they have these collections of cars, like, they are the people that people are looking up to now. And if they've got these cars and people still think they're desirable, that gives us a chance, because that means the next generation is going to hope, and maybe there'll be a whole bunch of kids going up going like, I just want a car just like what Shmi had. You're like, because without those people, like,
I see what you mean. I think it's it's hard to measure it. Are you a car, like everyone that, say for instance the Top Gear presenters, when they come in and go, oh bloody hell, who have they given that to? Those guys? Really? But they're car guys, they're car geeks. They may not be on the same level, but they're car geeks. We were saying about earlier about Tom went through cars. He went through 720, went through SVJ. I worked on his Huracan when he had that, and now he's got a Carrera GT. But if in his head that's been his path, this is where I'm going, then it's horses for courses. I've got a real love affair with TA22 Celicas. I bet you could say that to 50 people and they'd be like, what the hell's one of those?
So there's people sometimes go to me asking for like investment advice for stuff, and my first thing is like, please don't buy anything with an engine in it as an investment.
God, no.
Just as much. Also, half these cars are people are like, I had a Z4M, and everyone was like, Z4M, next big thing, and I'm like, had I kept onto that car since I sold it, I don't think the appreciation would have even covered the service costs, like, not at all. But there's two things that I'm so tempted to buy. I'm just very bad at saving money because I keep doing silly stuff. There's two things I'm tempted to buy and just store. One, Mark 1 Focus RS.
Right.
The other, really random, first gen Fireblade with the holes in the front.
Yeah.
Foxeye.
The original silver and
the 800 whatever cc it was. Like
David's battery's going to run out if we're going to talk about bikes.
I think his arm's going to run out.
I think so. Yeah.
He's getting the work.
I need a harness.
Yeah. Last little bit then before we let you go home. 'Cause it's been a long day.
No, pleasure.
Car, you would most like to drive that you haven't yet.
We spoke about the LFA earlier, and I think that's got to be up there.
Is that?
Yeah.
That's it, is it?
Yeah. It's that, or well, I know I'm going to be driving a Diablo, so that's not so much an issue. Maybe the Carrera GT. That is the one. That is lottery win.
You're going to work through V10s.
Yeah, the lottery win. That's like it's not a discussion that's happening. It's
Carrera
like,
GT in the garage.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's number one.
Yeah. That's the first thing. I'm not paying off the mortgage. I'm not paying for friends' bills and stuff like that. First thing, Carrera GT. Like, little Timmy, you'll get your new heart in a minute. First off, gotta get a Carrera GT. Sorry, priorities. You'll understand when you're older. Like,
but you've not driven one.
Been passengered in one once.
Okay.
And it was quite magic.
And what? The sound, the feel, what is it?
I think to me, there's two things about it. Number one, it's very easy, and you'll empathise, I'm sure. Being in the fortunate position that I am now, it's very easy for some of these things to become just de rigueur, just normal. Yeah. Like, you come into work every day, you've got Lambos, you're tripping over the damn things, so you're like, it's normal.
It washes the emotion out for me, almost.
Yeah, so I try very hard. It's one of the reasons we were talking earlier about why I have such variety on the channel, because I try very hard to remind myself, it's not like, let's look down at the poor people. It's like, no, let's remember there's as much enjoyment in cheap stuff as there is pricey stuff. Like, having now run the whole gamut of stuff, the smile in a £500,000 car is not bigger than the smile in a £500 car. If the car's good, it makes no difference. But the Carrera GT is one of the few cars where I've always wanted it since it was new, and I still look up at it. It's still the impossible dream thing. Yeah. It's still the, I don't know. But also, what are they, £500,000, £600,000, something like that. I'm like, it's almost within reach. Whereas, say, a Zonda, it's 2 and a bit million. Shmee isn't going to go and buy a Zonda or something like that, because that's just obscene money. Yeah. Whereas the Carrera GT, I feel like, no, actually, maybe you one day,
sell the house and you've got a CGT.
10, 20 years down the line, like, maybe it could happen. And also the whole, it's Porsche just going, sod it. Yeah. We're just going to build something because we can.
It's one of the better terms. It's their Veyron almost, isn't it?
Yeah.
For shits and gigs, let's just do it.
Yeah. Like, we can do it. We want to do it. So let's do it. And there's so much in that is bespoke, unique. And it's one of those cars, like, you open up the cover and stuff like that, and you just look at it and you go,
was it mahogany gear knob or walnut?
Was it is it beechwood? Balsawood, or something like that. Yeah, because it's a nod to the 917. The later ones had carbon fibre ones.
Right, okay.
See, this is also when my taste has changed. Early, I was like, no, wooden gear knob. Ugh. Now I'd be like, has to have the wooden gear knob. Has to have the wooden gear knob. Sod the carbon fibre. I don't care that the car's basically made out of carbon fibre. It's a weird thing, like with the 550s, you can actually get carbon interior. It's wrong. That's wrrong. Well, it's a 550. You're like, there's no carbon in that car. Like, it's like you said, it's a leather car.
It's the nod to the past. Yeah. It's a nod. That's what got us here.
But it's a tasteful. And also, let's face it, naturally aspirated
V10 screamer.
Yeah, there's not many of those about.
No. But no. Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you.
No, it's been
Carrera GT. Heard it here first.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't think it's a secret. I don't think it's it's a secret. What have we learned today? Water wet, Sahara Desert very hot. JayEmm quite wants a Carrera GT.